You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. I gave you my opinion on how LSU moves forward now without Bryce Underwood. Because the reality is, like, he's not coming back. Like, some people have asked, could they counter? Could they? No. My opinion, I don't know this for sure, but my opinion is that it was kind of like one of those Shark Tank scenarios. You ever watch that show Shark Tank where they're negotiating and one of the sharks will say, "I'll do this deal, but you have to tell me right now. It's yes or no, or the deal's off the table." It kind of felt like that. Like Michigan made this Godfather offer to give us an answer or we're moving on. One of the things that I was told on Thursday evening was that around 4 o'clock, LSU representatives were having conversations with Bryce Underwood's attorney on their contract, like dotting I's, crossing T's. And then literally an hour later is when the news came that he was flipping. So somewhere, some way, something was either not communicated or was disingenuous or something dramatically turned. I'm certain from a Michigan perspective, they felt all along very good because they knew the hand they were holding. They knew they were willing to spend whatever they needed to spend to get there, so they would get there. That has to have been their perspective all along. And ultimately, we got there. The number that we shared with you was $12 million. 4 years, $12 million, $3 million per. LSU's number was half that. And I would submit to you that if you're trying to be smart in how you allocate your NIL budget, meaning from an LSU perspective, I would not want to spend $12 million on Bryce Underwood over 4 years or $3 million in 1 year. I would rather allocate those funds to other spots that are going to make you better. Maybe one of the best examples I can give you is something that LSU themselves saw. Back in 2016, LSU played in the Citrus Bowl that year against Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson was awesome. He won the Heisman Trophy on a 3-loss team because he, singularly, was awesome. Kind of like Jaden Daniels last year. Well, that Louisville team played LSU in the Citrus Bowl, and the Tigers won that game 29-9. Lamar Jackson ran over 20 times that day for just over 30 yards. Lamar Jackson, people, 2-time NFL MVP. Why? I don't know. Arden Key, Devon Gottschall, Kendall Beckwith, Duke Riley, Deion Jones, Jamal Adams, Tre'Davious White, Dante Jackson. LSU had an NFL defense. You know what LSU doesn't have right now? Players. So, while, yes, absolutely, you wanted to keep Bryce Underwood. Yes, absolutely. I don't believe it was an at all costs. Because if you give me the option of Bryce Underwood and a defense like we've seen, or I can take that money and go allocate it to build up my roster, maybe to get Jakeem Stewart, to go into the portal and get a starting interior defensive tackle, to get a game-changing safety, to get a game-breaking wide receiver in the way Keon Coleman was a game-breaking wide receiver for Florida State out of the portal. Yeah. Make the entire roster better. Again, I feel like I have to qualify this every time I talk about it. I am not in any way dismissing Bryce Underwood, his talent, or the impact he could have had on this program. I am not dismissing that. I would absolutely want Bryce Underwood as part of this class and wearing the purple and gold the next 3 years. Yes. I would also not want LSU, considering it doesn't have the resume, the roster of billionaire donors lining up ready to throw $12 million at a kid that's never played. I would rather LSU take the funds it has and allocate them in a more appropriate manner. So they haven't done it yet, by the way, but how they finish this 2025 class and then the portal will be a reflection on how this staff managed this Bryce Underwood situation, meaning him flipping. Because now you got less than 2 weeks to the early signing period. Harlan Berry put out a tweet that he's not talking about Bryce Underwood. Had a home emoji and a tiger emoji, meaning he's staying home. DJ Pickett very quickly posted a picture of him on his Oregon visit and then very quickly deleted it. So there's a lot of people in recruiting circles who think DJ Pickett's going to end up at Oregon. We'll see. But I'll tell you this much. The three players that I was told last week that LSU was pot committed, they felt like they had to get, were Underwood, Pickett, and Jakeem Stewart. Well, Underwood's gone. Pickett might be, we'll see. And something I was told today is that Michigan, which you saw Jakeem Stewart tweet that he had been re-offered by Michigan, that Michigan is dumping a pile of money on Jakeem Stewart. And so LSU, while I think Jakeem Stewart wants to be at LSU, there's a relationship with LSU, there's a relationship with Frank Wilson, there's a relationship with Bo Davis, and LSU, I am telling you, has put a very, very handsome NIL offer on Jakeem Stewart. If Michigan goes and does for Stewart what they did for Underwood, you can't compete. Like, if they make up their mind, they're going to pay him whatever they have to pay him, you can't compete. But that's one to watch right now. The other thing worth watching is the potential impact on the LSU staff, because a lot of people have asked about Joe Sloan. And I don't want to be presumptive, but I can read tea leaves. Brian Kelly has involved himself in the play calling. He admitted that after the game. Brian Kelly, the guy who was his handpicked choice to come be his offensive coordinator when he got the job initially, was Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees decided to stay in South Bend. 1 year later, Tommy Rees became the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Well, now with Nick Saban's retirement, Tommy Rees is the tight ends coach and a passing game specialist with the Cleveland Browns. You don't think that maybe, just maybe, especially now that Bryce Underwood's no longer a part of this class, which was a huge key for Joe Sloan. I mean, his relationship with Underwood was a huge part of this. Now that doesn't hang over, or now that doesn't factor into any decision whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying that just because Bryce Underwood decommitted, Sloan won't be back as OC. But Brian Kelly is involving himself in play calling. He's clearly not happy with the way that's gone. You've got 2 games left. We'll see. Now the Underwood component is gone and Tommy Rees is still out there. Yo, you can read the tea leaves. Like, you don't have to be, you don't have to be a savant. You don't have to be an insider to see this, that Brian Kelly would like to bring Tommy Rees here. How might that look? I don't know. But that's another component of this that we have to consider and watch as we move forward. So, Devin Harper flipped to Ole Miss. Bryce Underwood flipped to Michigan. Derek Meadows is likely going to be next. Michigan is in the mix. Alabama has gotten in the mix. And quite honestly, if we're just sharing information, I'm not sure LSU is interested in getting into a bidding war for Derek Meadows. He's committed. They have an NIL offer on the table for him. As I understand it, they are not interested in increasing that offer in any way. I don't feel like it kind of feels like, let me give you an outside example to make this make sense. This week, 2 Alabama players flipped to Nebraska. That's not commonplace. If Nebraska wants to come in and overpay for guys in the middle of Alabama's class, then okay, that's just what you're going to let those people walk. That's kind of the situation with Meadows. I think they would like Derek Meadows to be a part of the class, but they're not going to go treat that like they would Jakeem Stewart or Bryce Underwood or DJ Pickett, if that makes sense. So I would not be surprised at all if Meadows ends up at either Michigan or Alabama out of the LSU class. The other one that Shea Dixon's told us for weeks is Mike Tyler, the 3-star tight end from South Carolina. who's from Columbia, South Carolina, who may end up staying home at Columbia, or maybe he ends up as part of the LSU class. Don't know. But that's the other one worth watching. But if you're able to keep the core of this class together, if you keep DJ Pickett and Cade Phillips and Harlem Berry and Karius Kern and all the other guys we've talked about, you keep the core of this class together and you go supplement in the portal with the funds you have, and you get Nussmeier back, like there's your path back to being nationally competitive in 2025, and then you take it from there in 26 to see how it goes. But keeping the rest of this 2025 class together is of the utmost importance. We'll see if they can do it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.